Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Aldas, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving my top 5 drivers to never win a Formula 1 World Championship. Now, over the course of Formula 1's 70-year history, we are now going into Formula 1's 70th season, or hopefully at one point, there has been some truly incredible drivers, and over the years, 33 different drivers have been able to win a World Championship. But today, I'm going to be taking a look at the drivers that didn't quite get there, didn't quite win a World Championship, but nevertheless were absolutely incredible racing drivers. Now, I've got to say, guys, this list was so difficult to make. There has been so many incredible racing drivers to never win a World Championship, and I kept going backwards and forwards on so many different drivers, but the way I kind of brought it down to is two key things, and number one is their pure driving ability, that natural speed, that raw talent, and number two, the accomplishments and their longevity and their achievements in Formula 1. Now, of course, guys, this is just my opinion, this is just my top 5, so don't forget at the end of the video to post your top 5 in the comments below. I cannot wait to see what you guys think. I'm sure there's going to be so many different lists and so many different opinions, and I absolutely love to see them, guys. So yeah, don't forget at the end of the video to post your top 5s. Now, guys, don't forget, if you do enjoy the content on my channel, don't forget to drop a like, smash that subscribe button, and check out my social medias. Instagram and Twitter will be above. But guys, let's get into it. So, to kick off the list, and in 5th place is David Coulthard. Now, in his 247 races, he produced 13 wins and 12 pole positions in his 15 years in Formula 1. Now, DC is one of the most widely respected drivers in Formula 1, and on his day, David Coulthard could genuinely beat anyone, and on some of the most challenging tracks on the calendar. Now, his career started on a rather somber note as he took over at Williams after Senna's death in Imola '94. He grabbed the opportunity with both hands, however, and immediately impressed. He would later go on to join McLaren, and he would have his best years and eventually get the chance to fight for a World Championship. However, he was up against legendary drivers like Häkkinen and Schumacher, and as good as he was, like 99% of pretty much all drivers ever, yeah, very few could keep up with those two. Despite all of this, he took multiple race wins and pole positions against those two, and was a very talented racing driver even after he left McLaren and went to Red Bull, where he would help develop the team into the monster that they became in the early 2010s. He remained a test driver for the team as late as 2009, and still to this day remains as part of the Red Bull family. He was also a little bit of a Monaco expert as well. He won twice there for McLaren, and even in his later years gave Red Bull their first ever podium there with a 3rd place finish in a midfield car. In the end, there could be an argument to say that perhaps DC didn't quite achieve the maximum that he could have, or certainly that he had the potential to do, but we must remember that he was in an era of drivers like Häkkinen and Schumacher, and either way, in his own words, some drivers just don't have that last little bit, but he still ended his career achieving so much, winning some of the best races and going wheel to wheel against some of the greatest drivers Formula 1 has ever seen. Now, next up on the list in number 4 is Ronnie Peterson. Now, what a driver he was, and what a character as well. Nicknamed the Super Swede, he entered 123 races, taking 10 wins and 14 pole positions. Now, he was a driver that took his cars to the absolute edge of what was mechanically possible. With his flamboyant style, it was common to see pictures of him sliding through corners as he took his cars to the limit of adhesion. In terms of driving ability, he was up there with the best of them, showing absolutely no fear in an era full of danger. He was a hugely respected driver, gaining praise from legends like James Hunt, Jackie Stewart, and Mario Andretti calling him the greatest teammate he ever had, with many more people thinking it was only a matter of time until he would become a world champion. Now, whilst he absolutely had the talent and was arguably a better driver than some champions from the same era, he was extremely unlucky when it came to the cars he drove, as they were inconsistent from season to season. He finished a career high of 2nd in the championship in 1971, and then in his final season in 1978, but arguably his best season came in 1973, where he finished 3rd place whilst he was at Lotus. In that year, he was arguably the best driver up against Jackie Stewart and Emerson Fittipaldi, but as was common for those times, reliability let him down. In a 15-race season, he had 6 retirements, whilst at the same time taking 4 wins, and bar 2 races, he never finished off the podium the entire season. However, his life was sadly cut short after a first lap collision at the 1978 Italian Grand Prix, and although he actually survived the crash, he later died in hospital after complications from the crash the next day. Ronnie Peterson had his career and life cut short, but what will never be taken away from him is the respect he earned from the other legends in his era, as well as his God-given talent as one of the fastest drivers to ever live. Coming in third place is Rubens Barrichello. In his 326 entries, he took 11 wins and 14 pole positions with 19 seasons in Formula 1. His career best finish was a second place twice in both 2002 and 2004, and also 2 third place finishes in 2001 and the 2009 World Championships. Rubens Barrichello is probably most famous for being Michael Schumacher's teammate during Schumi's 5 straight titles with Ferrari. However, Rubens Barrichello easily gets on this list because not only was he a great driver, but his longevity was truly astonishing. Even before his Ferrari days, he was a super talented up-and-coming driver, starting his career with Jordan. He went on to be the leading driver for both Jordan and Stewart GP before his call-up to Ferrari, and it really did seem like he had the potential to be a future world champion, as he was hailed as the next big Brazilian talent after the previous 10 years were dominated by both Senna and Piquet. Now, although it never quite happened for Rubens at Ferrari, probably down to the fact that he was up against the most successful driver the Formula 1 world has ever seen, but you know, that's neither here nor there. What was undeniable was his longevity, as I mentioned earlier. Not only is he the driver with the most races contested in Formula 1 history, but if you look at the names and the top 5 drivers that precede him, they are all world champions. And the amazing thing is about Rubens is that any driver with a bit of luck, talent, or even money, I suppose, in these days could keep racing until they are literally kicked out of the sport. But Rubens was not only a successful driver at the start of his career, but he was also and remained a quality driver all the way throughout the end of his career as well, almost 20 years later, having fought well for the title in 2009 and then beating younger teammates and talents like Nico Hülkenberg and then Pastor Maldonado in his final years for Williams. He was also one of the most likable guys there's ever been in Formula 1, always wearing his heart on his sleeve. He never cared about getting emotional or crying on the podium, and we absolutely love to see it, but at the end of the day, it's his talent and longevity that earns him a place on my list. Coming in second place, I have Gilles Villeneuve, and what a driver. In his 68 F1 entries, he produced 6 wins and 2 pole positions, but he is a driver where the stats don't tell anywhere near the full story. Now, he first kind of gained massive recognition at the Formula Atlantic race in 1976, where he beat the 1976 world champion, James Hunt, that was going to be world champion later that year. Now, James Hunt actually was impressed and had so much respect for Villeneuve already that he came back to McLaren and actually convinced them to give Villeneuve a seat at the team. Now, from there his story began, and of course he moved over and had some incredible races at Ferrari, some legendary battles like the one with René Arnoux, and in the end his best season was probably 1979 when he came second in the championship to his teammate Jody Scheckter. But in terms of what do we mean when we talk about raw driving ability, raw speed, because that is absolutely what encapsulated Gilles Villeneuve as a driver. If you watch any footage, if you watch any races from him, he is absolutely on the ragged edge of what is possible in a Formula 1 car, and just to watch him race, you can see the crowd going crazy every single time. He was such an iconic driver because he brought so much excitement into driving a Formula 1 car to the point where it was literally an art form, and that is exactly what the crowd came to see. And when we talk about crowd-pleasing drivers, Gilles Villeneuve was that guy. Sadly, of course, his career was cut so short because he had so much ahead of him. He is probably the biggest what-if moment in Formula 1. What if he never died? But of course, we know that there was a very tragic day during the qualifying of the 1982 Belgian Grand Prix at Zolder, where Villeneuve was involved in a horrible accident that actually hurled him out of his car and into the fence, and he died later in hospital from his injuries. And again, he's probably the biggest what-if moment in Formula 1 because he was such a special driver to watch. And if you've never seen, just go watch some YouTube kind of highlights of him and his car control and pushing every single car that he ever drove to the ragged edge, to the point where it almost looks like it just can't be real. So yeah, he was such an exciting driver to watch, and I just really wish that I could have seen him drive in his absolute prime, because I cannot imagine how magical that would have been. His legacy in Formula 1, however, does live on. He will never be forgotten because his talent and his speed truly will rank with some of the best of them. Jody Scheckter even said that Gilles Villeneuve was the greatest racing driver he had ever seen in his life, and that was a very high praise from the 1979 world champion. And of course, on top of that, the Canadian hero's name is also now bared on the Canadian Grand Prix track, which is very close to my heart because the circuit Gilles Villeneuve is my most favorite track in the world. So yeah, a truly special driver, certainly to my heart, and one that I implore you guys to go and watch on YouTube, because he was truly a special driver, and one that was taken away from Formula 1 far too soon. So guys, in first place, and come on, did you expect anyone other than Sir Stirling Moss, the greatest driver never to win a world championship, an absolute legend if there's ever been one. I mean, this guy is absolutely incredible, and possibly the most unluckiest driver in Formula 1 as well. In his 67 entries, he won 16 races, and by the way, that meant that out of all of the races he actually started, his winning percentage was 24.24%. Yes, he won basically a quarter of every single race he ever raced in, and by the way, that winning percentage is right in between Sebastian Vettel and Ayrton Senna. That is the kind of quality of driver this guy actually was, and of course he also took 16 pole positions as well. Now, he drove for some iconic teams like Mercedes, Maserati and Lotus amongst others, and in terms of his best finish in the championship, and I seriously hope you are sitting down for this one guys, he finished second 4 times in his career, and then he finished third a further 3 times. Probably his best and closest season came in 1958, where he finished second to Mike Hawthorne, a season in which he was plagued with poor reliability. If we exclude the Indy 500, which none of the F1 drivers actually took part in, then in a 10-race season, Stirling Moss had 5 DNFs, and in the other 5 races, he won 4 of them and finished second in the other to lose the title by 1 point. To me, there is absolutely no debate as to who is the greatest driver to never win a title. Stirling Moss is that guy. He was eccentric and charismatic out of the car, and a hard and fierce racer in it, racing and winning in the most dangerous era of Formula 1, to which he once actually said,
"But I must say, I'm glad that I raced when it was dangerous, because the exhilaration of going around a really fast corner, 140, 150 miles an hour, and knowing that if you go off you might die, sure makes you feel pretty good when you get through it without dying." You know what I mean?
To me, he will always garner the same respect and appreciation as any other driver to win a world championship, because the truth is, he was always up there with the best of them. He was a British hero, an icon of Formula 1, and one of the greatest drivers Formula 1 has ever seen, and someone who will be respected and never forgotten in the Formula 1 community. And I say, you know, wholeheartedly, it was really just horrible to see him, of course, pass away earlier this year. But yeah, rest in peace, an absolute legend, and Stirling Moss to me will always be the greatest driver to never win a Formula 1 World Championship. Well guys, there you go. That is my top 5 drivers to never win a Formula 1 World Championship. Now in the comments below, let me know your top 5, and yeah, I cannot wait to see what you guys think, because there is so many great drivers and so many drivers that just missed my list. I kept going backwards and forwards with people like Carlos Reutemann, Juan Pablo Montoya, Jackie X, you know, those are also really great drivers, but yeah, they just missed my top 5. Anyway, I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, don't forget to drop a like, smash my subscribe button, and check out my social medias, Instagram and Twitter will be above. And guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.